Good morning, welcome to a morning outlook. This is Kim speaking on Tuesday, the 6th of June. So, looking at actually it started off with the pound dollar here, so unusual start, but here we go. So, what we've seen here, some indecision, bit of an update on Friday, and then Monday, and then Tuesday. Well, we're seeing a bit of a follow through here, and it looks like it's broken my trend line at least here. I drew that trend line across the previous highs up here. It tested it yesterday, failed, and now it looks like, well, it's certainly broken through it this morning. Looking at the shorter time frames, there appears to be a soft divergence, I'd call it. The RSI hasn't gone very high at the first level there yesterday afternoon, but it's run into the weekly R1 area with, as I say, a bit more of a softer divergence, and from an hourly perspective at the moment, it's looking weak. It's putting a shooting star into that movement. Now, excuse me, daily pivot hasn't yet been hit, so there's a possibility we could sell off towards that sort of level as we run through the morning. Obviously, I'd be wary of the pre 8 o'clock price action. I'll wait personally until post 8 o'clock and see what's happening and give me a better clue into direction. But as I said, it does look like it could correct back to that 8 o'clock pivot, daily pivot. We with that divergence, it sort of sits there as well. You can see it on this hourly basis to a degree. I mean, it did diverge yesterday afternoon there, and it sold off there initially, so it had the initial divergence, but it's sort of like a secondary divergence move at the moment, where it's selling off into. So that's certainly a possibility for the pound there. Okay, so go back and look at the euro. I'm just going to come back to the dailies there first, and well, we had a bearish Harami sitting in there yesterday. It ended up with a very small ranging day. We've still got this untouched monthly pivot. We've got an untouched weekly pivot under the current price levels as well, which I thought it might have drawn back down to yesterday. Didn't quite get there. It started moving certainly in the right direction. At the moment, it's not really giving me too much of a clue on this 4 hourly sort of time frame, although we've got these sort of higher lows and higher highs, so potentially it could continue to push on. Looking at the shorter time frames, intermediate, well, at the moment, intermediate, that shorter term trend there certainly looks more positive. But again, we've seen a divergence here, much clearer divergence on the hourly pattern here. It's already hit the daily pivot, but it may come back towards that sort of level, below that. To me, it becomes potentially a sell point for yesterday's lows, the S1, and maybe the weekly pivot. So there is some potential there. Why do I want to sell it? Well, it's we're looking from the dailies. Don't particularly overly want to sell it, but if it, as I said, it's short-term data. If it does start coming through, it becomes a sell. To become a high, well, or buy, should I say, really needs to be breaking for me above yesterday's highs there, just for confirmation. It may just run back up to those highs. So yesterday's highs, it's actually Friday's highs that we really need to be looking at there, I suppose. But if it starts breaking above those highs, well then it's more of a buy opportunity. But as I said, there is weakness in the divergence move. Okay, dollar yen continued yesterday. It looked at one stage like it wanted to get up and push up a little bit. There's a weekly pivot, there's a daily pivot above untouched yesterday, but just failed to do so. At the moment, selling off at quite some rate. We've seen risk aversion picking up through the Asian session there, with the US bonds off 2 BPS, and US equities futures turned from slight gains to losers. So I was just reading the news there in terms of what ran there. So that's the reasoning for this move through the Asian session. Also, there's quite a bit of inflation coming through in earnings, so Japanese earnings. So that's been reflected in the market here. Where from here, well, it's already had a pretty solid move through that Asian session. We do still have the weekly pivots untouched below, but we are getting towards a sort of a more extreme sort of zone where we're seeing here a bit more of a sell-off, although RSI is suggesting a bit of a divergence into this move. Just looking at 60-minute here, could be a marginal divergence. So it'll be interesting to see how it moves this morning and if we get a bit more risk on. But at the moment, there's the jitters out in the market, and the yen generally appreciates on that basis, hence the dollar's weakness here. Okay, let's see yen. Let's have a look at Aussie dollar. So Aussie dollar properly pushing up yesterday and holding up pretty well, but we've seen a sell-off so far this morning. Rates were held overnight untouched, and it's quite bitty where we're looking at it on a 4-hour perspective. No divergences or anything. Looks relatively weak. It's just come down to the hourlies and see the pattern a bit clearer, and it's a real choppy old pattern there at the moment, but erring on the weaker side here. No real strength in the push up there. It's accelerated up quite quickly and pulled almost straight away back again after a small bar. So really does look like it could continue on the shorter time frames. It's probably a little bit of an M sign, which is a weakish sign at the top of a move. So we could see a sell-off towards the 50, maybe a bit further down towards that S1. However, if it does manage to find support here and chops along, I wouldn't be surprised if it just stays within that range. Canadian dollar. Canadian dollar also here showing signs of strength against the US dollar. Marginal, not big moves or anything like this, edging its way down there. It was a bear flag on the dailies. It's could have easily fooled us in terms of different moves yesterday. It did break the trend line I was talking about yesterday morning. It sold through that, pulled back up and then sold again, and it's broken that sort of level. So it's put a sort of lower high and broken the trend from a 4-hourly perspective. It's hit the daily pivot S1. Pretty signed off for the day in terms of ranges when it's done that sort of movement. There is the potential, of course, for it to pitch back up. Let's just have a look at what oil's up to at the moment. So oil's strengthening, if anything, which would bring the CAD down, dollar CAD down further. It's not much in the way of strength, but okay. So it errs more weak than on the weaker side. As I said yesterday at points, it got bearish, then rallied. We may see a similar sort of situation where we see it rally a little bit this morning, but it may be an opportunity to sell into any resistance. Okay, that's pretty much it. News-wise today, there's little in the way of news due out. Everyone's looking towards later in the week when we see on Thursday. So we've got 2 quiet days now, Tuesday, Wednesday, in terms of news. There's not a great or significant amount of news due out. Okay, that's that. Have a great one. Bye for now.